Welcome, everybody, to the Synapse Philosophy Group. I'm your host, Dr. Haig John, on D.D. Palmer's 1910 book, The Chiropractor's Adjuster. We're on page 827, and our bearded D.D. Palmer lookalike, Dr. Alan Lichter, is going to do the reading tonight. And again, in this section, we're getting close to the end. We're going to do some skipping around a little bit. So just follow that. You're getting the most important part because a lot of people who are listening to this don't have the book. That's okay. We're going to give you all the best, biggest highlights and the things that you can really use and go from there. And I'm going to leave this in Dr. Lichter's hands, and we'll go from there. Thank you, Alan.
Well, thank you, Haig, and I will do my best to do a good job here. I appreciate you trusting me to do this, and I want to make sure everybody understands they should speak up and comment on this because that's what it's all about. We'll stick this stuff that's mostly oriented towards philosophy and skip some of the detailed anatomy work that he talks about in a couple of these sections tonight. We're on page 827 of The Chiropractor's Adjuster by D.D. Palmer. There's about 1,000 pages in this book, and we're getting close to the end, which is really exciting. All right, this section is called Symptoms. In all the vast, and this starts out with a quote, and I'm going to presume this is something from BJ, but it's not identified. So a quote that says, "In all the vast lore of therapy appertaining to symptoms, there is nowhere to be found the expression of the faintest concept of what a symptom properly applies or is related to anything but disease. In this connection, chiropractic teaches that a symptom is only an evidence of a condition, be that a condition of normality or abnormality. The symptoms of normal processes are fully as numerous and of as much value to the practitioner as those of abnormal processes. To determine that the individual has a certain disease, it is only necessary to observe all the symptoms, both normal and abnormal. A chiropractic diagnosis consists of the observance of all of the symptoms of the patient, those of normality as well as those of abnormality." Anybody want to say anything about that particular quote? So we go on there to Didi speaking then, and he starts out saying, "A symptom is a phase which occurs synchronously with a disease and serves to point out its nature, location, and the changes taking place. Symptoms only exist during the period of disease." And then he quotes, "In all the vast lore of therapy," unquote, or that of chiropractic, or that of chiropractic, symptom is not applied or related to any conditions but disease. Symptoms always apply to the fundamental disturbance of morbid tissue or morbid tissue. Chiropractic teaches that a symptom is, quote, "an evidence of a condition named disease," unquote. And then he says, "Disease is studied by the symptoms exhibited, normal processes, and studied by the symptoms exhibited. Normal processes and normal conditions do not exhibit symptoms, evidences of disease. Any perceptible change in an organ or function from that of health is a symptom. Could not be otherwise than a symptom. The word symptoms the term symptoms of symptoms is used to denote the effects which are the result of certain symptoms and are essentially or directly connected to the disease itself. The debility rising from dysentery is a symptom of symptoms. The word symptoms is never used in connection with normal functions or normal tissue." So that gets a little confusing in there when he starts talking about symptoms of symptoms. But he's saying the symptom, but ultimately, what the point here is that the first person was saying that the symptoms can be normal or abnormal, and he's saying symptoms are only the abnormal expressions of disease.
Yeah, and he's giving us, the way to communicate properly, right?
Yeah.
We're not talking symptom is not a positive thing. It is there's a disease process happening. Yeah,
There's a cause and effect, and the
cause and
symptom is
effect.
an effect. It may cause other effects, but the symptom itself is an effect of, as we'll see, interference with the nervous system, an incorrect transmission of mental impulses, as we say. Shall I go on?
Yeah.
Barry, hello. The chiropractor, in making a diagnosis, first of all, makes a very careful and thorough examination of the articulations of the skeletal frame. This is a quote again, I'm sorry. This is a quotation. The chiropractor, in making a diagnosis, first of all, makes a very careful and thorough examination of the articulations of the skeletal frame to determine whether or not there are occlusions of nerves in the same. And on the surface, what we think about these days is often that's okay. But he's going to refute that in a minute here. To make a diagnosis is to distinguish one disease from another by objective and subjective signs and symptoms. In making a diagnosis, it should be the chiropractor's business, first of all, to determine the nature of the disease by learning what functions are abnormally performed, what part of the body is affected. Then take into consideration the nerves which ramify the diseased portion, in which they are likely to be impinged upon, and lastly, not first of all, and that's in bold, examine the locality where he has decided the luxation exists, which by its displacement impinges upon the nerves. To examine, quote, the 300 articulations of the skeletal frame first of all, unquote, would be to leave out the diagnosis. Comments there?
No.
The author of the above seems to think and would give his readers to understand that to make a diagnosis is to examine the articulations of the skeletal frame. It is safe to say that the author of Carver's analysis, a teacher in a chiropractic school, does not know what constitutes a diagnosis. The chiropractors know but little or nothing of pathology or of the symptoms and signs of disease and normal or abnormal functions. They do not step to make a disease, but straight away, first off, make an examination of the vertebral column and adjust those which they think out of alignment, regardless of the nature of the disease. An examination of the, quote, articulations of the skeletal frame, unquote, would be to inspect the 300 articulations. Why not make a diagnosis and determine therefrom which vertebra is displaced? Quote, the occlusions of the nerves, unquote, has been noticed elsewhere. Therefore, I not only add that there are 76 articulations in the vertebral column. The uppermost 5 could not occlude a foramina, for there are none to be occluded, and the remainder outside, 224, have no foraminas to occlude. Why examine the 229 articulations which by their displacement could not possibly occlude a foramina? Any bone displaced may impinge upon nerves, but never squeeze or pinch them. So I've got a question about the anatomy that he's going with there. Doesn't necessarily jive with what I understand it to be, where he says the top 5 can't impinge, don't have foramina to impinge. Well, Atlas and Axis may be lacking an actual foramina, but the other vertebra top 4 all have foramina between them, don't they?
I mean, and they had decent diagnosis or dissection by then. They were looking at those vertebra. They knew
I
what
don't
they looked
understand.
like.
Yeah,
I'm perplexed by that one, quite honestly. That's
yeah.
perplexing.
I mean, the rest of it is clear. He's saying, why you don't go to the spine first. You have to have some idea. He's saying they're looking for where the disease may be coming from, where the symptoms are coming from, and you have to have a deep understanding of the spinal nerves and what their tracks are, and you go from the symptom to where the interference is coming from.
Yeah, I follow you. Barry, you unmuted?
Yeah, I was thinking if that was still in parentheses because
Which part?
um, displacement could not possibly occlude foramina. There's some symbol there. Is that a question mark?
I
But I
can't
didn't know
find
if
it
that was
now.
still in parentheses or not. You know, a couple of key things here. Dee Dee always talks about the articulations. The subluxation is the articulation. And then in the page previously, he also talks about the luxation, which is a key component of the four parts of what we understand in Stevenson's, right? You can have a bone out of place. So he said to specify the location of the luxation. So I really wanted to point that out because Dee Dee is talking about you can have a bone, quote, out of place, luxated, but not impinging on nerves. And he
Ah,
also talks about the ramification of the nerves, because he was the founder of the nerve tracing, which then became the Merrick system, you know, our chart. And here he is talking about go to that spot and see if there's interference to the ramification of the nervous system from that impinged nerve in that impinged area.
and now we use, well, a lot of us, I was I was a beta tester for some of the stuff that came out of uh, the testing software and hardware to check the nerve for nerve interference and heat reading instruments electronically rather than just the neurocalligraph. But the now we use that as part of our diagnostics to see where the interference is. Um,
That's like listening to music on a CD instead of a phonograph, Alan.
yeah. Well, I
I'm
was, I'm old. What can I
I'm just
say?
I'm just teasing you. No, I love
I'm
the
good.
digital, but I love the analog instruments too. I also believe that I don't remember this exactly, but he's talking about how the foramina in the spine. There's only a couple of key areas, and one of them being upper cervical, where you could truly have impingement on the nervous system. You know, and he's talked about this before. I don't have my thoughts clear, but because of the bony locks, they really don't luxate those articulations. Yeah, there's foramina there, but they truly don't luxate. Oh, I love it. Thank you. You always
with the
redeem yourself so well.
with with the little chain that hooked it to the pacer.
That's awesome. The neural temple meter. And for those listening, Alan
I
just
have
showed
that
us.
exact one too
That's
in the
awesome.
case.
Yay. That's great. I was going to say for the listeners, Alan just showed off his neurocalometer.
You know,
And I have
that
a
pause could be dangerous. Just showed off his neurocalometer. Ah.
with the with the chain dangling.
Guys, I want to ask you this. Let's take a moment. Someone was talking about, the germ theory recently on a post, and I was thinking this is from, this is rational bacteriology. This is William Werner, Wyant, and Watkins. These are chiropractors. Amazing, writing. They wrote a few books. This one I have is actually from Watkins, from R.J. Watkins himself. But it's, do we have to get it into the obscure books? But what they're really doing is they're going through Speransky and making it a whole lot easier to read. If you've ever read, I sold over 200 Speransky books in my time, and reading it is not why people get it. They get it to have it. As a journal, it will put you to sleep probably faster than any medication that pharma can build up. But the rational bacteriology, now, on the other hand, written by chiropractors for chiropractors and really for the world. I wouldn't mind even doing a separate night once in a while to do this one, or doing this one soon when we're done. We're not far off from 1910. So it's a thought, okay? But it's something the world needs, that information. It's an important one. Okay, I
Right.
digressed.
All right.
Alan, do you have
So
anywhere you're skipping to next?
no, I was going to go a little bit here and then
Yeah.
probably skip a little bit.
All
He
right.
defines tone on the next page. Um, so I'd get to the end of this section here. We say the next paragraph says, drugs have no place in this quotation mark. Drugs have no place in this chiropractic close paren process. Chiropractic is not a process. A process consists of a series in bold of actions, motions, and occurrences. Chiropractic is a science, not a process. Adjusting is an art. I didn't want to miss that.
No.
Each and every chiropractor who desires to achieve more than ordinary success should possess a thorough knowledge of osteology, neurology, functions of the principles of chiropractic. If we desire to reach the intellectual class, we must be educated in our profession. This should be the chiropractor's stock and trade, his working capital. We have the goods. You need them. If you can't do the best, then do the next best. If you cannot attend the D.D. Palmer School, thereby receiving chiropractic direct from the originator, the fountainhead, then take the adjuster, study its pages, imbibe chiropractic as developed by the founder. Be sure that your cumulative function accumulates these thoughts by physiological action. Remember, if you receive chiropractic ideas pathologically distorted, they are not physiologically chiropractic. Little sales pitch from Didi.
Well, also, he reconfirms what I was saying is, 1910, he's uplifting, giving vocabulary, helping you communicate in realms. He just said really what I was actually just feeling. That is exactly it. He's making sure that the readers of this, you're going to call yourself a chiropractor, make sure you're able to communicate properly using proper terms. And I think that's very important. And that's with every profession, right? Being a professional, you know,
And
absolutely.
there's things that we've been going through right here where he is clarifying terminology in
Yeah,
his mind and for people about what his concept as the founder are important definitions in chiropractic and how it distinguishes itself even from what some other chiropractors are saying about it.
yeah,
I like how he says here thorough knowledge of osteology, neurology, functions, which even is true today, and principles of chiropractic. We didn't have
Yes,
to wait till 1927 with Stevenson. Didi's laid them down.
the
yeah.
core principles are here. Um, so I'm just going to skip to the last paragraph on page 829, where
Yeah.
he defines tone, which I don't know if he's defined it before this.
He
Nerve
said it a few
tension,
times in different ways.
nerve stretching acts as an irritant, causes too much functionating, too much action, a waste of energy. Extreme tension causes paralysis. Bones of the body framework give the nerves a proper and normal tension, known as tone. If they're displaced, they will cause either more tension or relaxation. If so, why not replace the displaced bone, which is causing the tension or relaxation? And that's the end of that. And then I have skipped all of 830, 831, where he talks about biology. I think there's a little bit, he has some definitions there about pathology. Um, we could actually go over to the next page. We're on 832, the first paragraph.
Yeah.
Chiropractors consider that metabolism is dependent upon vital force and not upon chemical action. That impulses sent out by innate spirit are normal and would to do so continue so to their nerve endings and functionate normally if not interfered with by a change in the transmitting tissue. The conductibility of impulses is modified by age. In general, it may be said that the extremes of life show an increased disposition to disease. Certain diseases, as mumps, diphtheria, croup, Measles, chickenpox, and pertussis affect children principally and occur only occasionally in adults. In advanced age, we find diseases which are rare in infancy. Nerves become hardened and less sensitive as we advance in age. The glands, organs, and cartilage become more fibrous and less elastic. Functions are modified by traumatic injuries and various substances which, when taken inwardly, are applied externally, impair the normal and special action of a part. Displacements of the osseous framework impinge upon nerves, which direct the communication of impulses and give an undue force to functional activity. Poisons just as surely act upon and cause contraction of nerves and muscles, drawing bones out of alignment. Local inflammations and fevers are due to traumatic injuries, inoculated virus, or to poisons taken internally. An overheated condition, whether local or general, disturbs the functions of the body. All known diseases are the result of and are accompanied by deranged functions.
Not deranged chiropractors.
You know, I want to point.
Unless they disturb function in their disability to adjust properly.
What were you going to say, Barry?
I was going to say, you know, I want to point something out here, which has to do with mental impulse, because a lot of times we just think of B.J. Palmer seeing mental impulse. So he says here, displacements of the osseous framework impinge upon nerves, which direct the communication of impulses. So that's brain to body communication. Those are mental impulses.
Yes.
Not sensations from the body to the brain, but impulses from the brain to the body.
Well, and he says it in the first paragraph, second line. Chiropractors consider that metabolism dependent upon vital force, not chemical action. That's where he uses the term vital force.
So I'm going to go to the last paragraph, 33.
Go ahead, Barry.
And force unites intelligence and matter.
That's it.
Correct. Yes. So last paragraph on 833. The science of chiropractic has modified our views concerning life, death, health, and disease. We no longer believe that disease is an entity, something foreign to the body, which may enter from without, and with which we have to grasp, struggle, fight, and conquer, or submit and succumb to its ravages. Disease is a disturbed condition, not a thing of enmity. Disease is an abnormal performance of certain functions. The abnormal activity has its causes as much as windows which are bound and cease to be movable, or the transoms of doors which are unable to close because of the settling of some portion of the building. I think it's a great couple analogies right there. It's the morphological alterations of the body superinduced by displaced structure can be located and surely corrected, as can the sagging of the building. Disease is manifested by functional aberrations and structural alterations. These constitute the signs, symptoms, and lesions of a departure from the state of health. Disease does not involve any new functional expression which the body does not already possess. It is only a change in the amount of energy and function performed. The body in disease does not develop any new form of energy, but what is already possesses is diminished or increased, perverted or abolished. In health, there is a constant physiological, invincible molecular change. The manifestations of energy. In disease, this manifestation of energy is modified and the quality of structure is altered. The transmission of physiological impulses in normal amount is health. In a less or greater degree, disease. Physiological metabolism is health. Pathologic metabolism is disease. The vital process known as metabolism consists of osmosis, diffusion, elasticity, pressure, and affinity. These are the energetical expressions of vital force. I think that paragraph is just an amazing amount of data right there. It's just full of core philosophic information.
Yeah, lots of good stuff there.
Silence.
There's a lot to digest in reality. And, again, he's giving us understanding of what we're talking about in physiology, pathology, normal, physiological function of metabolism, expressions of vital force. You know how much I love vital force.
He's defining what normal and abnormal is, and what's normal and what disease is, and what disease is, health and disease.
Yeah, which what we have to know about. And you ask almost any doctor, what is health? It's almost impossible. No symptoms, right? Well, that doesn't mean anything. But we're always trying to determine that. What is health? That's what that section really is all about, right? What I'm doing is outline. I mean, look at this book, and I have half of it's not even in here, right? This is how I try and get through the day reading this book with you guys. But yeah, there you go.
I got my fair share.
Yeah, writing notes to myself of, oh, this is health from Dee, right? We can go back and reference. I'd love to have tabs at the top and just I could do this so neatly. I'm not that type of person.
I
All
like how he
right.
says here, in health, there is a constant physiological, invisible molecular change. This is innate, constantly adapting to the body. Notice he said the word health. I know sometimes we say the 33 principles don't say health. However, D.D. Palmer wrote health 552 times in his 3 books, and this is one of them. And this is one of those spots here where it's a lot to digest. Makes me think too a lot of my mentor Michael Kale. He would always talk about it's either too much or too little. And Dee Dee's talking about here. The functions is too much or too little. But who knows exactly what to do at the right moment? Innate. And he isn't saying the word here in this paragraph, but he is talking about these are energetical expressions of vital force. This is innate, adapting to these micro level times at the moment and need that it needs to be.
Yeah,
And
that
he spoke earlier about spirit, which is the same. Yes.
innate in spirit. There what defines us in the professions of the world. Where are we? And you mentioned this about health. I imagine your talk might have touched on this at the Upper Cervical Conference, um, because I think that's an important distinction where we're not about health and we have fewer definitions and those type of things where it's confusing, especially for the student, right? Dee mentions health numerous times. BJ made epigrams with health about health. And, all those things where we're getting confusing within our own profession of very principled people. And I think that comes kind of out of a lack consciousness. I really think that's lack in reality. And, I really feel that we've been holding our own hands because of our, I don't know, inability to really step into who we're meant to be as chiropractors.
I think that what we've read tonight and the definitions that Didi has laid out here, although they may have been slightly modified in some ways in going forward in time, are still the core. The challenge is that people get confused because even in here they talk about healing, and that people get healed, and so we get confused. Chiropractors are, and we're in the lucky group that that holds that studied the principles and the philosophy and hold it as our core. I'm not sure that a lot of chiropractors ever get exposed to it that way, and they get lost in, and become very medicalized and treating the symptoms for the patients.
That's a different thing.
somebody feels bad and you want to make them feel better. You feel better, call me back when it bothers you again. No, it's about something much bigger than that. Yeah, I want you to feel better. What I'm doing is allowing your body to heal the way it knows how. And
Helping your body adapt.
your body adapts, and the symptoms you're having is an adaptation, is a protective mechanism.
Go
It's
ahead,
an
Barry.
expression of your body working on dealing with something that's a problem for it. We don't want to stop that. We want it to work the way it's supposed to and make sure that it's doing the job the right way and healing you the best that it can and help it to do that.
Yeah, thanks to this podcast, it's helped me grow leaps and bounds of my understanding of chiropractic. And I'll simply say this, that 60-minute lecture was 130 years of our profession in 60 minutes. And you guys and gals listening who's part of this podcast will enjoy this because it actually started 20 years prior when Dee Dee and his brother TJ left Canada to walk to Buffalo. So I had to do 150 years within 60 minutes. And I told them, we're going to go from walking, we're going to go from horses, buggies, steamships, trains, planes, and rocket ships. So hold on. So one of the unique things here, this is great because we're going to pull this in. This is the chiropractor's adjuster. So this is Dee Dee Palmer adjusting the thinking and what's being said and taught. So as we know from his very beginning classes, he had MDs and DOs. He also had females, which is very admirable for him to have. So when you have an MD and DO, and I think we had Timothy Faulkner on here, I believe, or Joe Foley, sorry, you have to step up to a certain standard when you have MDs and DOs in your class. And here you are, the Fountainhead DC. So then they went on, and as we know, Dee Dee said, you can then go on and teach chiropractic. You can teach it. So there's hundreds of schools. So mixing, and I said this in a lecture, mixing has been in our DNA from the beginning. And people have been saying, graduates of DC degrees have been saying these things that are not according to our principles. And here, this adjuster, Dee Dee's talking about this. He talked about Carver, right? We had Alva Gregory, the MD who he had the Gregory Palmer School with in Oklahoma. So it's really in our DNA. It's always been there. I really firmly believe we're going to have to deal with it. But luckily, we're blessed here on this podcast with us individuals who get the idea and can teach it and talk about it and pass it on.
And learn to understand it better ourselves. It's what I love about this is these discussions. They help clarify for me still and more.
That's it's not the only reason I do it, but I do it because it also I get redipped and gets reacquainted with the philosophy and D. D. Palmer and B. J. Palmer. This is such an important thing, and of course, I feel that we're all doing this for the profession, for lifetimes following us of hopefully other chiropractors joining in, because where else are you going to get this read to you, first of all, and but then also discussing it, and you come up with your own ideas or spark new ideas that we're not thinking of, right? As we progress in generation after generation, there's new thinking, there's new experiences that everybody will have, we have no idea of yet. So I really feel how timeless this is. It will go on throughout the rest of time as well, being as timeless. But I was thinking as we are talking about, just getting back at this thing about health, the next paragraph, the next section is called tapeworm. Okay. The one after that is called typhoid fever. If health was not important to the chiropractor, why in the world would he say, you better read about the tapeworm and typhoid fever? And that's just in these two paragraphs ahead of chapters ahead of us. We're probably going to skip them. I really don't feel like reading about the tapeworm.
I read them today.
It's not
I,
deep, really
I,
rich in chiropractic
I
philosophy or
skimmed through them. His
spirituality.
anatomy of the tapeworm was fascinating.
But you know what? You
But
can
not
Google
stuff that
it.
we need to read to discuss in this group. Yeah,
It's not something I'm going to say the word, treat in our offices is tapeworm, right? Because we treat the symptom. We care for the person. Chiropractors don't treat symptoms. We care for the person so the body's ability to function and heal itself are at its optimal ability. Nutshell.
It's not the Band-Aid that heals the cut.
That's exactly right. Exactly.
I
Gentlemen,
used to use that. I use that all the time in my office. I use it all the time
I'm going to
talking to
use that.
people.
I'm going to use that on Friday.
It's what makes that cut go away? Is it the Band-Aid? Is it the ointment that you put on there to, what is it that makes it heal? It's you.
I told my kids teach the nurses and the teachers do not wipe off that blood too fast. Don't stop it too quickly. The body actually bleeds a little bit, gets the junk out.
That's
There's a
right.
physiological reason for this to happen. If you have to cover it up, cover it very loose. Don't put any petroleum jelly on there. That's what that stuff is made out of. Probably polysorbate 80. And do not put it on the cuts of my children, you know? So if you want to bandage it, put it far away from the boo-boo. And don't let it come in contact with that glyphosate-ridden cotton swab that's on there. Anyway, I had a couple of rants through my days, but I'll only continue those the rest of my life. But well,
I had to present evidence at Tulane when Andrew went to Tulane for undergrad. I had to go have a discussion with somebody in the health department about why he wasn't vaccinated and why I didn't want him vaccinated. And they had to and they would and they said, well, if this, that, and that happens, then he may not be able to come to class. And I went, uh-huh. I said, will he be able to get his work and do it outside? And they said, well, yeah. I said, okay. And that's from there on, it's his decision what he wants to do or not do. But at that point,
that's it.
I had to go present evidence to them, and I talked to this woman on the phone and sent her copies of articles and stuff before we even got there. So it was fascinating. I had a good time with that.
That's great. Well,
Anyway,
everybody, we have a we had a good night. We got a lot of stuff. We're gonna pick up just past typhoid fever. I haven't read this part yet. There's some things I can see kind of immediately that look pretty good, but we'll get there. We'll get there. I'm throwing my
well,
pencil in that spot. We can't miss it.
yeah, 41 is a good page, certainly, but
Oh
we might
yeah.
even want to read the chiropractor's work just for fun.
All right. Well, that's
But
about
that's
where
something to
we'll
think
be.
about. We'll
All of the
think about that.
chiropractors work. I'm just going to put there. That's a poem.
Yeah.
Well, it was a good night, everybody. I'm glad you joined us. And man, I missed you. We're going to be back next Tuesday. I barely made it home for this one. I would have done it on my phone because I wanted to get to this. And
Is what's
at
happening with
some point,
Scott?
huh?
What's happening with Scott? I liked having him around. Is he busy with his teaching?
Well, it's timing. Also, he's in mountain time.
He's in Colorado, yeah.
Yeah, and it's not as easy, I guess. Some other things like that.
Yeah.
Right?
I ought to send him a note, tell him I miss him.
That'd be a great idea. Everybody else do the same thing, all right? All right, bless you guys. You have a fantastic night. Good night.
Good night.